President Trump met with Russian officials in the Oval Office back in May. He reportedly revealed highly classified information from Israel and told them that firing James Comey, who he called at the time a nut job, relieved great pressure on him with regards to the Russian investigation. Well, yesterday we learned the president met alone for an hour with Vladimir Putin at the G20 conference over in Germany, an hour, just the two of them. The only other person present was a Russian translator supplied by the Kremlin itself. Well, the White House never disclosed that meeting. It was first reported by Ian Bremmer, who's president of the international consulting firm the Eurasia Group. Let's watch.
I will tell you that, many of the leaders that were in that room, including, America's most important allies, were quite surprised. They found it unusual and noteworthy. The body language, the chemistry, the fact that it went on for so long, and the fact that, of course, it reflected a much warmer relationship between Trump and Putin than he has with any of the other leaders in the room.
Well, White House spokesman Sean Spicer, for what it's worth, told the New York Times this about the G20 meeting. Quote, it was pleasantries and small talk. How would Sean know? President Trump tweeted today, quote, fake news story of secret dinner with Putin is sick. All G20 leaders and spouses were invited by Chancellor of Germany. Well, we all know that, but what happened afterwards? Also today, the Washington Post reported President Trump is planning on ending the CIA's covert program to arm and train moderate Syrian rebels, so we're on Assad's side now. Anyway, according to the Post, officials said the phasing out of the secret program reflects Trump's interest in finding ways to work with Russia, which saw the anti-Assad program as an assault on his or its interests. NBC News has not confirmed the report. I'm joined right now by James Clapper, the former director of intelligence, national intelligence under President Obama. Mr. Director, from the beginning, Donald Trump has said his whole goal with Russia is to try to develop a deal of some kind to fight ISIS. And it looks like everything he's been doing so far, forgiving them on Crimea, forgiving them on eastern Ukraine, even just seeming to forgive them on interfering with our elections, if not bringing a blind eye to it, and now apparently to forgive them for supporting ISIS. It's coming across to me like a Polaroid film. It's just developing in front of us. This is what Trump is up to. You're the expert. What do you see Trump doing here?
Well, it seems clear to me that he's very, very interested in a productive working relationship with the Russians. I guess the concern I would have is what concessions have been made or are being made, and if there are concessions being made or agreements being made, what's the quid pro quo for us? What is the United States getting out of this? I've read the media reporting about stopping our support for the moderate opposition groups, which is a very profound move, and I should caveat by saying that's certainly his prerogative as the president to do that. But there are serious implications here. One is, it appears to me that he's just kind of thrown in with the Russians and helping them as they have sustained propping up Assad, who, by the way, was the original cause of the civil war in Syria to start with. And of course, if we're stopping that assistance, then we're cutting the knees out from under these moderate opposition groups who've grown very dependent on us. And of course, I think another aspect here is gauge what the reaction of the regional neighbors are. I read, again, that Jordan is supportive. I'm not sure all the others would be. So if this is true, it has huge implications.
Mr. Director, what do you make of that first meeting in June of last year? It seemed to be the first meeting when Donald Trump Jr. was approached with a proposition that the Russians, apparently at the government level, had some dirt on Hillary Clinton. Based on your knowledge of Russian methods, what were they up to there in establishing a relationship with Trump's son?
Well, I think, first of all, this was the classic textbook Soviet and now Russian tradecraft, kind of the soft approach. And I think their principle, they had two objectives here. One was to determine whether those close to then candidate Trump would be interested in talking with him about and receiving dirt on Hillary Clinton. That was point one. And point two was plausible deniability. And these are characteristics of a typical Soviet/Russian intelligence service tradecraft. And I think that was the primary objective, just to find out if they reached out, if there would be interest evinced, and there was.
And what kind of a response do you think they got? Because Trump seemed very pro-Russian in the months after that.
Well, that's true. He evinced that when we published our intelligence community assessment on the 6th of January and briefed him at Trump Tower about the Russian interference in our election in 2016. And he, of course, was skeptical about it, although he wasn't while we briefed him, but in subsequent commentary was disparaging of it. In fact, at one point characterized us as Nazis, I guess, for having reported to him what our judgment was about the magnitude and the extent and the scope of Russian interference, which and the results for them, I think, all they're going to do is they're going to do it more. They're going to be back there, and they're going to be emboldened to be more aggressive.
So even after sending the message to Manafort, Paul Manafort, the chairman of his campaign at the time, and his son, that they were on his side, that they were willing to help him hurt Hillary Clinton in the campaign, even after getting that message clear as a bell, he told you folks, the intelligence experts, that he didn't believe that the Russians were trying to help him.
Well, he didn't. He just kept iterating the possibility that, well, it could have been somebody else, could have been a 400-pound guy in his bed in New Jersey, yeah. And it kind of reiterated that message in his speech in Poland.
Yeah, but it wasn't a 400-pound person lying in their bed that came to his people, three of them in Trump Tower, including his son-in-law and his son and his campaign chairman. That wasn't a 400-pound person in their bed that came to him with the dirt on Hillary.
That's
from
right.
Russia.
That's right, and I mention that only because I think he was trying to apparently obfuscate the origins of this interference. And just to be clear, in our minds and in the minds of the intelligence community, the agencies that participated in this, there's absolutely no doubt it was clearly the Russians. We had a very high confidence level about that, and still do.
Well, let's talk about his reaction to all this. We know that he's denied the dossier, and that's in dispute. But yet he has been so nice to the Russians. He was nice to Mr. Gorbachev or Mr. Putin in the G20 meeting openly. And then when they had the private meeting, went over and sat with him with just his own Putin's own translator, interpreter there, and he spent that hour with him there. And now today, as you point out, he brings out this new overture in terms of supporting Assad, basically, by opposing or giving no more funding to the opponents of Assad, the side that we've been on all these months. That adds up to me as cooperation and collusion. What do you think? Well,
it's very concerning to me that this appears to be going on. I understand it's a good thing to look for areas where our interests converge, but it seems to me what we're doing is suborning our interests to those of the Russians. And if this is true about the action in Syria, well, this is a very serious thing. And this affinity for Russia is a very curious thing. And bear in mind, Russia is an existential threat to this country. They are embarked on a very aggressive modernization program for their strategic nuclear forces. They have a very aggressive counter space program. And these are all designed with one adversary in mind, and that's the United States. And oh, by the way, they're also in violation of the INF Treaty. So I have trouble understanding why we're being so solicitous of Russia, who are not our friends and are not going to do anything that's in our interests.
Lastly, how would you describe President Trump's response to this adversary since taking office?
Well, again, it appears to me that the approach to be taken here is to be very solicitous of the Russians. And again, if the action that I've read in the media about Syria is true, it seems to me what we're doing is essentially subordinating ourselves to the Russians as they sustain Assad, which has been their position all along. And I think what that does in the long run is really marginalize whatever leverage we had in influencing developments there.
When an American or any other power lays down before Putin, what's Putin's reaction to that generally? How does he like that kind of response, that acceptance?
He revels in it. He is, in my view, not a throwback necessarily to the Soviet era, but a throwback to the Tsar era. He's not really an ideologue. I think he has this Russian greatness mindset, and that Russia is a great power in the world, and that he craves that kind of recognition. He uses that recognition to, you know, I think, intimidate his own people, and uses that as a way of trying to exhort their patriotism. So this phenomenon here plays right to his sweet spot.
Do you think our president is helping Russia be great again?
Yeah, in a way, I guess he is. Particularly if, as Putin, you know, gets his way in Syria, and if nothing is done to push back on the Russians in Ukraine, yes.
Okay, James.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.